Students, this Unit 1 of literary forms deals with different types of poetry. And in the previous Module 1 video, you had a lyric, ode, and sonnet. And in this Module 2, you have elegy, pastoral elegy, ballad, epic, mock epic, satire, idyll, and dramatic monologue. So the first type of poetry on this is elegy. An elegy is a lyric of mourning, or a direct utterance of personal bereavement and sorrow. That is, it expresses the grief over the death of someone. And this is a type of poem, a poem of mourning, that is dukkam, soham. Okay. The elegy comes from the word elegiat, which in Greek means lament. These Greeks judged an elegy by its form, and it also includes other type of sad poems like war songs, lamentations, some broken love poems, and political verses. The only restrictions that was to follow while writing elegy is it should be written in elegiac meter. Later things got changed, and in modern usage, the theme is given more importance than the form, that is, than to be written in elegiac meter. So the theme should be mournful and reflective. So usually elegies deals with the lamentation for the death, that is expressing the feeling for the death of someone. And it may be also on any somber themes, that is on dull themes. So the sincerity of emotion and expression forms the basis for an elegy. So mostly elegies grow into memorial poems which contain the poet's tribute to the dead person, and mostly it gives us the character of the death. The example for elegies are Milton's Lycidas, where Milton mourns for his university friend Edward King, and Tennyson's In Memoriam, and Tennyson expresses feelings for the death of Arthur Hallam. And Matthew Arnold's Rugby Chapel is an elegy where he deals with the death of his father. He expresses his sorrow over the death of his father in this poem. And there may be other subgenres of elegies like critical elegy and pastoral elegy. And sometimes the poet not only mourns for the death of his loved one, but also includes the criticism of his literary work. That kind of elegies are called critical elegies. The example of this type is Sir William Wordsworth's Grave and Arnold's Hein's Grave. The pastoral elegy is one of the important subgenre of elegy, where this is also a type of elegy where the poet expresses his grief under the disguise of a shepherd mourning for his companion. That is, the poet assumes himself as a shepherd and the dead person as his fellow shepherd. And the manner of speech and the settings were borrowed from the rustic life. The best example of pastoral elegy is Milton's Lycidas and Arnold's Scholar Gypsy. And the next type of poetry is ballad. Ballad is a narrative poem, a poem which narrates a story in short stanzas. Ballad is a simple narrative poem in short stanzas that tells a story. It may be called a story in verse. So the word ballad is derived from the Latin word ballare, which means to dance. So it is originally used to sung with the accompaniment of music instruments like harp. In ancient ballads, the authors were unknown because most of them were transmitted orally, So the things where those ancient ballads were not written and recorded, so the authors were unknown. The themes were of common aspects of life, and the stories like adventure, love, fighting, and valor were given much importance. Supernaturalism was an important element of such ballads, and the narrative presentation, simplicity, and spontaneity of expressions are the characteristics of ballads. There are two main type of ballad. The one is traditional ballad, which is also known as the ballad of growth, and the other is modern ballad. It is also known as literary ballad. So moving on to the traditional ballad. The traditional ballad got its origin from folk culture. The author of the ballad were unknown and grown naturally among the primitive race and transmitted orally. So it is from the ancient period these folk ballads were transmitted orally. So the refrains and repetitions were used often. Since it is transmitted orally, these refrains and repetitions will help them to memorize the songs or the stories easily. So refrains and repetitions become an important characteristics of these traditional ballads. These ballads deals mostly with love and adventure, and it begins with a climactical episode. Sometimes the story will be told in reverse, that is, it begins with the climatic episode and tells the story by means of action and dialogue. So example for this type of ballad, that is traditional ballad, is the several ballads deals with the legend Robin Hood. You know Robin Hood. Robin Hood is a thief who steals from the rich and gives that to the poor. So there are more number of ballads written on this Robin Hood theme. So the other important traditional ballads are Sir Patrick Sen's The Wife of Usherswell, and Chevy Chase, Edom Gordon, Thomas the Rhymer, or the other ballads. Most of the ancient ballads were collected as a book and published in 1765 by Bishop Percy. The name of that book is Relics of Ancient English Poetry. The next type is modern ballad or literary ballad. So these learned poets copy those ballad form from that traditional ballad, and they started imitating, copying that stanza form from that traditional ballad and used that to write ballads. Bishop Percy's The Collection of Songs and Ballad gave this motivation to write ballads. The great ballads are written during Romantic Revival. That is, Romantic Revival is a period in 18th century where poets started reacting against neoclassicism, and they felt there is a connection between man and nature. So these poets like Wordsworth, Coleridge, Keats, and Shelley started writing poets with poetry with romantic characteristics. And during this period, a great number of ballads were produced. Few example of this type of ballad is there is modern literary ballad is Coleridge's Rime of Ancient Mariner, Wordsworth Via Seven and The Tables Turned, and Keats La Bella Dame Sans Mercy. And I recommend you to read this one, La Bella Dame Sans Mercy. And this is a beautiful ballad, and this tells an amazing story in it. And the next type of poetry is epic. So this is a long narrative poem. Epic is the longest of all the poetic types, and this is lengthier one. Sometimes an epic may consist 10 to 12 books. Mostly epics consist 10 to 12 books. So epic is a long narrative in verse on great and serious subject. So mostly the subject matter of epic will be somewhat serious, and it is written in an elevated style, that is, it is written in grand style. An epic tells a generally well known story and it is centered around the heroic or semi divine figure. So, mostly epics take the well known story from the people, and the story centers on the hero. It's the hero may be from some mythological person or some semi divine creature. So, on whose action, on the hero's action, the fate of the whole nation or the human race, it depends upon the action of this hero. An epic is a series, and there is a good deal of physical and spiritual conflict in it. The events, characters are portrayed in detail, and elaborate descriptions are used to refer to the places and actions of the epic. So the style adapted is very ornate and elevated style is adapted. There are two types of epic. The first one is epic of growth, and the second one is literary epic. So, epic of growth. It is not entirely the work of a single author, but evolved from the pre-existing legends, folk songs, and sagas. So, the epic of growth is not a creative work of an individual author. It is derived from the ancient stories, legends, folk songs, or sagas. The example for this type is Iliad and Odyssey, the English Beowulf. Even our Indian epics like Ramayana and Mahabharata come under this category, the epic of growth. All epics of growth deal with the same subject matter, like everything is on the action of the heroes, that is, the deeds of the heroes. These heroes belong to the race, and their exploits from the core of the mythology and contain supernatural and religious elements. So these were taken from mythologies, and it has all supernatural and religious element in it. So the next type is literary epic. It is a product of an individual geniusness. So the earliest of literary epic is Virgil's Aeneid, which became the model for all the later epics written in all the languages. In English, the supreme example for literary epic is Milton's Paradise Lost. A literary epic is the result of the poet's erudition, that is, the poet's knowledge and the poet's scholarly research, where he tries to share all the characteristics of the epic of growth. The example of this type is, other examples for this type is Arnold's Swarab Spencer's Fairy Queen. There are a few main traits of epic. The subject matter of epic is heroic or mythologically. It will give out some important heroic qualities of the story. Mostly it is derived from mythology. So the hero must have some connection with the nation or the cosmic importance. It may comprises of the setting of an epic may comprises of several worlds. That is, like it may like in Paradise Lost, it may include heaven, hell, and earth, the several worlds. The action of an epic involves supernatural deeds. The hero and the characters were derived from mythologies, and there may be gods and goddesses. They are the supernatural agents who control the action in an epic. And the epic may deal with some thrilling episodes like battles, duels, and wandering, etc. It has some moral purpose in it. It may represent the victory of good over the evil. So the other important quality is it must be written in a grand style, and your epic is usually divided into 12 books. And this one, Milton's Paradise Lost, consists of 12 books. The next subgenre of epic is mock epic. Mock is something like satirizing or laughing at this form, epic. So mock epic is something that mocks at the form. So mock epic is a narrative poem in which the conventions of a regular epic are employed in connection with the trivial things. Thus, it becomes a parody. That is, all the conventions of an epic and the grand style of an epic is followed in mock epic. But the story will be a very mean one. That is a trivial thing. A very unimportant story is taken and given and employed a very grand style, and all the other convention of epic is employed in it. So in likewise, it ridicules the form epic. It becomes a parody to the form epic. A ridiculous or mock effect is created by using the grand, eloquent of narration other conventions for the theme, essentially insignificant. That's how the insignificant, unimportant theme is taken, and using the grand and eloquent style for that unimportant theme or story will create a ridiculous effect. So the example for this type is Battle of the Frogs and Mice, a Greek parody for Homer's Iliad. Homer's Iliad describes Trojan War. You know how serious Trojan War is described. So the same style of grand narrative style of Homer's epic is used to describe a battle of frogs and mice. You know how important the battle of frogs and mice is. So that is how it creates a ridiculous effect. And the other best example is Alexander Pope's Rape of the Lock is the finest example for this form mock epic in English. The Rape of the Lock celebrates absurdly a trivial theme. The theft of a lock of hair from a girl's head by her lover is an epic manner. So here, the rape of the lock, it means a lock of a hair or a சுருள் முடி. So the theft of that lock of a hair from a girl's head is described in such an epic manner. So this incident, a very mean incident, an unimportant incident of theft of a hair is treated as an epic and written in an epic manner. That is how this thing forms mock epic. So mock epic is a kind of parody to the epic form. The next type is satire. So satire is a literary composition in prose or verse. It can be either in prose or verse. The ambition of the thinkers is to ridicule the folly or vice. That is, it should point out the errors in society. It will laugh at the error in the society. It keeps the readers in a good humor. So the humor is created from the mistake of the society or from the mistake of a person. As Dryden said, that the true end of satire is the amendment of vices by correction. So the end of the satire is that it should correct the mistakes of the society. So satire originated in Greece. The earliest form of satire is Aristophanes' plays. So the next example for satire is Chavarant's Don Quixote, which is published in the one more earliest example is Chavarant's Don Quixote, which is published in 1605. And in English, Jonathan Swift's Gulliver's Travel is the first great satire. And also Shakespeare uses few satires in his comedies. The elements of we could find the elements of satires in Shakespearean comedies. And satire is intended to ridicule and not to abuse. It ridicules at the follies, the errors of the society, and it must be forceful and effective. It may be direct or indirect, but always aims at correction. An idyll. An idyll derives its name from the Greek word meaning little picture. It means a little picture. And this type of poem need not be a distinct piece of poetry. As a sort of form of lyric, it may be included in a long poem, or it may come as a passage in an epic ballad or in any type of poem. So it got its origin from classical poet. They wrote pastoral elegies and confined itself describes of playful and happy existence. So the main characteristics of these idyll is it should be brevity and pictorial effect. It should have brevity and pictorial effect. The poet presents a picture in words, and the pictorial effect is achieved by the graphic descriptions. So this type of poetry is it describes, it brings out a pictorial quality of poetry. Okay, pictorial effect. The poet will describe a picture in words. Marlowe's The Passionate Shepherd to His Love, Milton's Allegro, Wordsworth's Lines Written in March are few examples for idyll. Pastoral seals in Shakespeare's As You Like It and Winter's Tales can also be considered as idyll of country life. The last type of poetry is dramatic monologue. So dramatic monologue is a kind of speech expressed by the poet, is expressed by the to a silent listener. Mostly there may be 2-3 persons participating in a dramatic monologue. Mostly the speaker of the poem will give out an address to a silent listener. That is, the audience or the listener in the poem is passive. He won't react, he won't answer back the speaker, but he'll be in the poem. The speaker relieves his innermost thought and personality through his address. The speaker in the poem will express all his innermost thought, and those thoughts will bring out his real personality. The dramatic monologue is addressed to a passive listener whose action is hinted by the speaker in course of his speech. The most celebrated writer of dramatic monologue in English is Robert Browning. He wrote dramatic monologues such as My Last Duchess, Rabi, Ben Ezra, Ferralopopi, etc. The other example for a dramatic monologue is Tennyson's Ulysses and T.L.S. Eliot's Love Song of Albert Suffolk. So this is how we are at the end of this model 2. So you have the reference. This is your prescribed book. So you can refer this book for more on this topic. Thank you.